I get the privilege and pleasure of interviewing amazing thought leaders and authors who come on and share their expertise, not only on their successes in writing a book, but even more so with the amazing things that they're doing now and how they're leveraging their life's work in the form of books, in the form of other experiences. So I'm Parshel Tashi, I'm the owner of the Author's Leverage, and today I'm joined with Nikki Green, and we're talking about how in the future we're all entrepreneurs. So this conversation is definitely going to be geared towards her thought leadership and her new book that's coming out called The Chameleon Mindset. We're actually partnered on that together. So I'm excited just to share and just have a conversation with Nikki about all the amazing things that she's doing and how you can support, how you can be part of her mission and her community as it's growing. So let me introduce Nikki and then I'll bring her right on. So Nikki Green left the tech world to inspire the next generation to do things differently. She partners with graduating college students to create a syllabus for life designed to help them pursue their passions rather than just a paycheck. Through her book, I Laugh in the Face of Danger, and her weekly podcast, Stand Up and Stand Out, she coaches the chameleon mindset, teaching her audience how to adapt to their ever-changing environment. So let's welcome to the podcast here officially, the Nikki Green. Hey, Nikki.
Hi, it's so great to see you again.
Yes, like we just literally talked this morning, everyone. So we're all caught up.
But I can't get enough of you, so we'll just keep it going.
I love it. I love it. This topic. As soon as you shared it, saying that in the future we're all entrepreneurs, like that is so. It's such a powerful statement, and it really speaks to I think the future of how we're developing as leaders, as people, and all the nine. So tell us a little bit just to give context. Why did you leave the tech space and ventured into this world of coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. As soon as I learned the word, probably in about, I don't know, fourth grade, I was like, yes, be my own boss. Nailed it. Let's do that. I was pretty bossy as a kid and probably still so now, but I knew I wanted to lead. I knew I wanted to do, my own thing. But somewhere between sort of that, 10, 11-year-old girl and graduating university a decade later, all these fears started piling up and bills and understanding just kind of all the risks that was happening in the world. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just do the thing and get a corporate job like everybody else because I need health insurance, right? Like that's what everybody tells you when you first go to find a job is like, forget what the pay is and all that. The most important thing is health insurance. And at the time I did have some health issues. So it was a critical decision factor. But, 20 years later, working in corporate, and it just burned me out over and over again. And I just finally said during the pandemic, like many people, it's time to get out and do my own thing.
I love it. I love it, and good for you. I mean, that was a big change for you, I'm sure, in taking that leap. And yeah, like that couldn't have been easy.
No, I definitely had, that roller coaster that many people have when they're starting a business is, or even just changing jobs or having any kind of milestone changes in their life is you have this high of like, yes, I'm going to do it. And then you go, oh no, you're on the downside. I'm doing it. It's,
What was I
you know,
thinking?
yeah, exactly. And it's so tough. And so you really need a support system around you of family and friends and other entrepreneurs that are doing something similar and putting themselves out there. Especially because in my corporate job, it was very easy clock in, clock out, just stay there and
Mhm.
put in the hours. Here, I really have to invent myself every single day and making sure I'm putting the best quality content out there for, the people in my community. So.
Absolutely. And how do like so when we look forward, how do you define entrepreneurship? Is when from when you learned it in the fourth grade to now, do you feel like it's different or do you feel like it's the same?
No, it's definitely different. So I was very privileged when I was in Silicon Valley and I got to be an entrepreneur. And so basically, what that does is allows you to have sort of a research and development department, a ring fenced team of people that work with you to build out a product or a concept or an idea.
Mm,
And I did that a couple different times in different Fortune 500 companies. And so you get sort of the upside of being an entrepreneur, of always putting yourself out there without the downside risk because you're using the other people's money in order to pay the bills and bring in the talent.
mm,
But it
mm,
it just fed that energy for me, and that's where I see the future going. We started with going from pensions to 401k and giving people the freedom that they didn't have to stay with one employer their whole career. They could now take their retirement with them because that was something
mm.
that left them in jobs they probably weren't too happy with 100% of the time. And so now more of those things are starting to democratize that we have our own ownership of them. And I think it'll continue to make us entrepreneurs, whether we truly own our own business or whether we're just taking control of our career in a different way, even though we may be employed by somebody else.
Yeah, what I hear in which you coach about is really it's the mindset. You're not just an
Mm.
employee, but someone who's actually taking part in actually creating what's going to be developed or a staple part of that company or business or organization. It's about the
Exactly. And the
mindset.
more we get to own our own intellectual property, we feel more invested in what we're doing. So many times people had jobs where we're just sort of passively, in the job and we're being told what to do. But now we're in what's called the knowledge-based economy. And most jobs are based on our mind. It's based on us thinking,
Mm,
creating, and building
mm,
things. And so that no one can take away from us. That will always be ours, and we can take it to the next job, our own business. And so the mindset has to be in that right way that you think of things in that term. So
mm. And when we look at the, especially with who you coach, and you mentioned coaching specifically, college graduating, first time employees, or those that are younger on the workforce, why did you choose to focus your energy and what you're developing right now towards that particular group?
yeah, I love working with young people. I also am a part of a number of nonprofits, so I'm always trying to give back in that way. But I heard someone give a speech and they called themselves a geriatric millennial, and so I said, no, I think I'm actually I'm a juvenile Gen X. So I looked at him the other way. Is feeling that energy of youth, right? And really staying
Mm,
young at heart, no matter what's really going on in life. So for me, it's always been fun, but it was also a time in my life where I was challenged in my 20s as I was graduating university. I had a vision of what I wanted to be, and my support system really told me that wasn't, the right thing I should be doing, right? All the
mm.
should ing we get told in our life.
Yes, all the shoulding. It's crazy. Just like, especially if you're becoming an adult or understanding what it means to adult, right? And be, it's this thing of adulting, which I feel like I'm still learning. But what are some of the main, I should say, pillars or things that you really get excited to share with this particular age range? Because it's funny, it also applies to all of us, but because it's about change and transition. But what are some of those big like aha moments that you're able to share?
Yeah, I like to say I'm a creative adaptability expert. So there's three pillars in creative adaptability. One is cognitive, what we're thinking of, how to solve problems, which is usually what we do when we're at work. Our behavior, how we act when we're doing things. A lot of that has to do with our self-care and how we're setting boundaries. And then emotional, so how we're reacting, either reacting or actually, interacting with others. And a lot of times we compartmentalize those three different things, either at home or at the office. And what I talk about with creative adaptability is the importance of leveraging all three of those things together. Basically, your conscious, your unconscious, and your physical manifestation of what you're doing every day. And by doing those three things together, you're going to come up with creative solutions for problems that probably no one ever thought of before because you have a unique experience in your life.
Wow, it's giving a different perspective. You're seeing whatever's ahead from very different angles that are important to consider.
Yeah, exactly. Because everyone has had such a unique experience. We have our different, groups that we belong into. We have our inner circle that guide us, but no one person has had exactly our experience. And it's important we continue to leverage that for building the path that's right for us. Everyone can help and they can give us guidance from what their perspective is, but no one is us. And so that's the way you leap forward is by really leaning into who you truly are.
That's so key because it's better to do that in terms of, building a life around how you naturally are and who you are, as opposed to cutting off pieces of yourself or needing to change aspects about who you naturally are in order to fit a box. Like I've experienced that myself in entrepreneurship, where initially I had the mindset that I need to change things about myself fundamentally, or I should say, around my personality, who I am, in order to be successful, in order to have a thriving business. And what I'm finding now is that I can build this around how I naturally am. It's another way of approaching it. So it's you're putting things on as opposed to trying to remove aspects of yourself.
Yeah, early in my career, people told me I wasn't approachable. They told me that, it's hard to get to know me, that I seemed really
Hmm.
distant, and people who know me now find that, incredibly difficult to believe, right? It's important that you start to get that true nature and marry those two together. I hid a lot of my emotional basis. I had a lot of trauma from, previous things in my life. And
Hmm.
so I was just very cognitive at work, just very down to business. And that made people not know me and not necessarily like me. I seemed kind of rude or like just distant. And so as I
Hmm.
started to really get more comfortable with myself and letting people know me, then my career grew in leaps and bounds, and new opportunities opened up that never would have been possible without doing it that way.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. How important is self-awareness of this type of journey and what you're teaching?
yeah, definitely. And even for me, and I really try to show and be vulnerable through my own journey that's happening now, because it's not like everybody has it all figured out as they're going. It's through each challenge that you find the next step. And you have to really let yourself relax and let things happen to you and get comfortable being uncomfortable, which is a very difficult thing for us to do, especially as you start getting more, a little bit older, you start making more money, and all of those things kind of root you, but they kind of keep you also from getting to where you need to be. So
Absolutely. And looking ahead too, because I know that you have this amazing book coming out called The Chameleon Mindset. Um, Talk a little bit about, in particular, like when I look ahead, because I've seen your work, I've experienced you, we've been in person, all the things, and I can only imagine the excitement around what you're building for this generation when you look ahead into the future. So, if you were to paint a picture of the future and um, what you would be excited to see come about, especially with this generation in the future, like what does the future look like going forward to have more people who have sort of this chameleon mindset?
yeah, I think the importance of adaptability cannot be understated. Change is happening. It's not just like, every once in a while, something change is going to happen to your life. It's literally the Uber in your driveway about to take you for a ride. So you need to know where you're going. And so for me, it's about building this community of chameleons that can come together, that can adapt to change together and help each other through those challenges. I think we've spent too much time. We went into our homes, but more than that, we went back into ourselves and we forgot a little bit about who we are. And we came out a little feral. We came out a little just rough around the edges. And I want people to smooth that back out, to really be comfortable in their own skin, to learn from others. And that way, change becomes easy. If we're constantly on the defensive, if we're constantly in a negative mindset,
Mm.
we're not going to get there. And so I want people to be ready for the ride and know their destination. And I want to help people do it. I can't do it from my living room either. So I can't wait to be out on the road and seeing people in real life.
Me too. Me too. I'm excited for you. And speaking of, we can shift gears in the conversation a little bit because I know that there are a number of authors who are listening, in whether they're in the process of writing or hope to write one day and release a book. Talk about your experience with this being your second book, and how you are leveraging this book in your business and your own growth.
Yeah, I did my first book in about 4 to 5 months, and I did it all by myself, and I had no idea what I was doing. Most of my English teachers told me I was terrible at writing. I write like I talk, and, that was not the proper grammar and things I was supposed to be doing. And so when I published the first book, I had no expectations. I was like, we just need to start somewhere. This book, I did it completely different because one, I learned from having a whole nother year of business what's the true message? What am I trying to say? And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. So I've been writing this book for over a year. And this is going to be a whole platform for really taking things to the next level. And that's it. You have to put yourself out there. In the meantime of writing this nonfiction book, I also started a fiction book because sometimes I just
What?
needed to switch my brain a little bit and be creative. And I still felt like
Mm,
writing, but I didn't quite have the words for this thing. So don't put yourself in one box. Don't just make it do this one thing. It becomes so much more because that's how you leverage it for the next thing. Don't think that you can only like put yourself in one lane, because this book is to give me speaking engagements. It's to have me be on podcasts and do my own podcasts. You don't know where it's going to lead. You just have to believe you have the right message. And so my advice to other authors is always just sit down, write, find a spot, and you will love it.
that's amazing. Such good advice, because there's so many people at different stages of this process. So to hear yours, and especially how you're using it, is huge. And you're already speaking. You're doing a lot of things around this topic. So that's exciting for sure. So exciting. And another thing that we can talk about briefly also is what else is coming up for you? What other um, exciting opportunities, events, things that you have going on that you're excited about this year and next year? Because this year will be over before we know it. It's kind of crazy.
Exactly.
So, yeah, what's coming up for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in tech for a long time, right? So for me, working virtually has never been a problem, and it's been fun. But my biggest thing in my career that I always loved was traveling, and I really, missed that during the pandemic. So I am looking forward of having this amazing balance to be able to
Mhm.
do both, to be on the road and do in-person events while also catching up with friends that I have all around the world, and then maybe throwing in virtual events at the same time. There's so much variety now that you can then layer your revenue streams and be able to really put yourself out there in lots of different mediums. And so it's just a matter of, again, putting balance in your life. But for me, I feel like I have more fun being in person, and I feel like I can connect better with the audience. It is tough to just talk to the camera all the time. And so I would love to see people in person and really hear about their experience as they read the book and start to go on the scavenger hunt with me through the adventure.
That's exactly what it is too, because I've got a little sneak peek on the back end here of like all the amazing experiences you're creating based off of your teaching. It's fun, it's exciting, it's engaging. It's literally, I would say, probably one of the best experiences I've seen thus far connected to a book. So you guys are definitely in for a treat. So in for a treat. Yes.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. It's a labor of love. It's going to be fun. A lot of these mindset books, it's very heavy. It's very like, let's tear apart all your trauma and put it out on the page, and that's tough. A lot of people just don't want to do that. That's why I go to therapy. This book is going to be, you're going to laugh out loud. I tell some crazy stories of real things that have happened in my life, and I am going to engage you to make up your own new stories, and hopefully they're more funny than like painful like some of mine, but hey, life happens how it happens.
I love it. Exactly. Exactly. Well, as we start to wrap up, Nikki, this has been such a good conversation. Where can folks reach out to you? Where can they connect with you? How best can they get in touch with what you have going on?
Yeah, pretty much everywhere you want to find me, I am the Nikki Green, TheNikki Green. And if you go to thenikkigreen360.com, it'll connect you to whatever the heck I'm doing lately, all my social sites, and you can even send me a text message if you feel like saying hi. So, there you go.
Nice, nice. And then also too, what would be your last parting words of advice for those that are listening in, based on your topic, anything that you want to share? And then also, I would ask you to answer this question. I usually ask it to different people who come on, which is, what is your one word? If you could leave the world, the planet, with one word that came from the Nikki Green, what would that word be?
Oh, wow, that's a big one. The
Take
one
your
word.
time.
Yeah. It's probably laugh. I think when people think of
Ooh,
me, when they're around me, I hope that they think of joy and laughter. I think that I want them to have a good time, even when we're working hard, and I've worked very hard in my life. Just laugh and enjoy it. Yeah. I am super excited about Chameleon Mindset book. I think it's going to change a lot of things, and I hope it really starts to bring people out of their shell and into the world, and for us to really make a community and build something exciting. So I can't wait.
beautiful. Yeah, me too. And I want to acknowledge you because, of course, like I mentioned, we've been in person. I've had the opportunity to actually experience you live and in person. And I'm just excited for what you're doing and just for this topic in particular being out in the world in the way that it is. Because like you could have went very heavy with the mindset and but it would not have fit you. And I just love what you bring to the world and to other people. So thank you. Just want to acknowledge you as well for that because I think you're the bomb.com. And and for
Thank
those
you.
listening in, yeah, thank you all for tuning in to this episode. And glad you all got to meet Nikki and hear some of the amazing things that she has going on and that's coming up. Definitely check out her book. We're going to link everything to her in this podcast episode as well. But thanks again for tuning in. And if you are an author and you're interested in learning how you can grow and leverage what you've already created, that's what we're here and that's what we're about. So if you ever need any support, you can always reach out to us and visit us over at theauthorsleverage.com. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.